What's up, everyone? Welcome to the latest episode of Power Spike as we get closer and closer to the first ever First Stand. We crowned a couple of regional champions that will be booking their tickets there. And we just saw a hell of a series in the LPL to get closer to crowning their champion. dGon alongside Jamada and Dom. That's where we start in the LPL, that most recent match that just happened as time of recording. JDG and Anyone's Legends in the upper bracket finals. It goes all 5 games like so many matches do here in Fearless. Just wanted to get your quick hits on the series, quick thoughts on the series there. Jamada, I'll start with you.
Pays, what was going on there, brother? Game 5 was a little bit suspect, to be very polite about it. But also I couldn't get on board with JDG's drafting today. With like a lot of it, I think when you look at their previous series, they look really good when they have a good early game plan that's like super easy to follow. There's not like nothing super complex. They just keep it simple, and then that usually translates to pretty consistent enough mid games. But today, and I especially feel like the back half of the series and game 5 especially, they just felt lost in Fearless comparatively to AL. And I kind of want to attribute it almost entirely to Coach Diff, but I feel like the player pools of the JDG players should have been deep enough to kind of overcome a lot of the drafting issues that they seemingly ran into. So I'm not really sure what to specifically highlight on that JDG side. But hey, like AO in finals is super hype, right? It's their first finals, first domestic finals. So it's a really, really big achievement for them.
Dumb.
Yeah, I think CV Max, like he is on fraud watch from this shit because the thing is, like,
no,
you can't always just blame the coach. I keep on trying to say this. You can't always blame the coach because coaches have to make their drafts like with the idea of what their players' strengths are and what their players are capable of in mind. So if the players are not capable of playing champions, then you have issues with actually coming up with a good draft. But he is playing with like the most versatile players you could have. Like Scout literally plays everything. Like the only person who I think is limited on that team is Ale. I think outside of Ale, everyone else can play everything that you need within a draft. And he's not able to find things that make sense. And stylistically, like, do you really think that it's like the players sitting there and you think that Pays is sitting there asking for MF? Like, you really, like, you know how much AD carries hate playing MF?
No, dude.
Do you know the type of fucking reverse jutsu I need to do to try to get Sven to play MF in a fucking scrim? Like, I gotta be like, bro, it's perfect. Like, they're running into you. BT is good at, like, you don't understand like how much players fucking hate playing MF. Like, that champion is considered so useless. And in a spot where they first pick Lulu or first pick Jinx, you know exactly what their comp is. It's like, oh, it's a protect the Jinx comp. Like, a lot of the engage is banned. Like, if you look at the drafts, all the engage supports are banned. And this is one of the things we run into in Fearless all the time. This is why you see like Jinx, Galio, and these comps coming out game 4, game 5. It's because there's like 4 good engage supports in the game right now. You have Nautilus, Leona, you have Rel, and you have you have Nautilus, Leona, Rel, and Rakan, and that's it. And like you can maybe try to get like a good Blitzcrank angle, but that's not really engaged. It's like a pick comp at that point. So
yeah,
it's very hard to draft when all these picks are out. I mean, Alistar is like not really engaged, but you can maybe use it in certain ways as a potential engage.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's out at this point as well. So when they first pick the Jinx, I feel like you have to be like, we have to deny the Lulu. At all costs, we have to just go another hyper carry with Lulu. I don't care if it's Sivir Lulu. I don't care if it's Aphelios Lulu. You just have to deny the Lulu at minimum there. And instead, they go MF, which is not good stylistically into Jinx. MF wants to be playing into things that can run into you. And Jinx comps normally are just going to, play from that like that mid range. It's not super long range, but it's in that mid range where you don't actually have to run in. And then the Kennen pick is like, I don't understand the Kennen pick at all because Kennen is not great into tanks. Like it's something where tanks are generally pretty happy there, and a lot of the tanks are still up. And then also Galio is still up, and they could have just put Galio top that game. They didn't have to flex the Galio mid. They could have just put Galio top into the Kennen, and then the Kennen is just in like an okay lane, doesn't have many angles to engage. Kennen wants to have people also play into you. Like obviously you can flash Kennen ult, but if the enemy team doesn't have to do anything to commit into a range where flash Kennen ult is viable, then the Kennen doesn't have leverage to like win the situation. So I just thought that this was like as bad as it could be. And then the casters in LPL had a very good call. They said they need to pick Nico here on 3. The Chinese casters were like really advocating for the only way you can make this draft work on the side of red side is on 3, you need to pick Nico, because then you have Nico MF. At least you have like a winning lane into the Jinx Lulu, and Nico provides some engage, and it's like the only thing left that can actually engage for you. And they don't do that. Instead, they go this useless ass Bard. I don't know what the fuck Bard is supposed to do in this game. Like Bard MF, they just lose the lane. They get outscaled. They don't really provide engage. Bard is generally played into very useless bot lanes. Champions like Braum, for example, that have really hard time like pressuring you in lane, and into double mobile carries. But it's just one mobile carry in Jinx. And even if you hit the Bard ult, it's not like they can really follow it up. If you hit Bard ult on the Jinx, and the Jinx is just sitting there, and you just Galio ult the Jinx, and you exhaust the cannon that's coming in, and the Viego goes on top, and the Jinx is cleansed, and there's like a redemption coming in, you just can't kill the Jinx. So it's like, the Bard ult is not an engage that actually like CCs them, does some damage, like, you know, allows your team to follow up, or like CCs multiple people. The Jinx is not hittable during the Bard ult, so the engage doesn't even matter here. So I thought that this was like a miracle that JDG was able to bring this game to like 45 minutes. I don't know how they were able to, you know, get soul in this game. It felt like JDG had to outplay 50 different times in this game 5 just to get the game to like be even. And the comp was just carrying AL. Like AL looked like they had worse players significantly in this series, and they ended up winning. And I mean, a lot of that is just draft. If I thought even in game 4, I could see the idea of the AL draft. I mean, they just completely misexecuted it. But the idea of enemy team doesn't have appeal for Jinx, and we can send Shen Camille with a Ziggs on top, and like there's not much that a Zeri could do to really survive that. It made sense. It's just they got mechanically outplayed. Shanks had a horror, like, you know, he didn't turn on target champion only in the mid lane. That was terrible. Camille like Q2'd Wukong clone in the top fight. So it's just a bunch of mechanical misplays. And then on top of that, just because of how the game was going, the Shen was never able to ult Camille. Camille didn't ult one time onto the Zeri until 30 minutes, which is just the idea of your comp. Like, there's a reason why people play Camille Ziggs, because you Camille ult somebody, and then you throw the Ziggs ult on top of the Camille ult, and the guy can't do anything, right? Like, he's just stuck there, and he'll have to take the Ziggs damage. So even that game, I think that AL had pretty good draft overall. I mean, I just thought that JDG was very, like, they're just relying on player skill only, and it doesn't feel like it's possible that the players all advocated for these horrible champions all the time. And if that is the case, and you're a coach and you're on stage and you're not able to like tweak things to like make it make sense, then I feel like you're not effective anyway. So that's why I'm blaming CV Max for this one. I just think it was really big coach diff.
Sheesh. All right. Well, again, a great series that went 5. Infuriating if you're a JDG fan, because you're watching your team make play after play, and even after getting knocked down, not quite give up until the very, very last moment. Anyone's Legends, Rogue Warriors, I guess spiritual successor, the first ever finals for them, and 1 series win away from international tournament success. We'll see if they're able to do that. Not their first international, because they made it back in 2018, 2019? I don't remember. But they had made it to international before, but potentially the first trophy for the trophy case for Anyone's Legends. Speaking of trophies in the trophy case, it's time for the sack tap. And unfortunately, El Dominico's owned organization, for the first time ever, has tasted being knocked out of the tournament, well short of, I think, expectations. Beaten the second time running by Bulldog and Ruddy Sack. I mean, it's been that long. We haven't had an episode in 2 weeks. Just kind of wanted to get quick thoughts here from the owner himself. Tom?
I mean, it was thoroughly depressing. And then also, you know, we got the Los Rototas special on top because Nemesis was co-streaming our match.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like pretty annoying, because from my end, it's like, what people don't understand is that, like, you don't really have like any levers to pull on if people actually just say fuck you, I'm not gonna like do what you say, you know. Like, if you're not, the whole model of all these teams, Nord, Los Rototas, us, is that if sponsors come in, obviously the players are going to get paid, but the whole idea is that you're trying to build some proof of concept so that you're actually able to, like, you know, get some type of sponsorship. And up front, no one is like, it's not like people are like, oh my God, what are like the salaries for these players? Like no one is on salary because there's like nothing built yet. So if you don't have the ability to like motivate people with something, it's very hard to get results, right? So the only thing we can do at this point is just like try to change the players and hope that, next time we just have people that are bought into the idea, because I mean, we didn't scrim like as much as we should have. We didn't commit to trying to be a good team, and then we just got what we deserved. It's like we were just worse than Bulldog. So yeah.
Getting Raymond sanged multiple times, Kasing, the old man at support for Bulldog, getting the best of the sack twice. Jamada, you had a different angle at it. What did you see? What did you feel in this series and just with the run?
Between last episode and this episode, I fractured my elbow. I can't move my arm very well. Watching Ruddy sack versus Bulldog might have arguably been more painful than the injury I'm currently recovering from. I think more because it was so close but so far away at the same time. I think especially the final game of the series, if you watched it. And I think I watched parts of you watching the game back, Dom, because I had to. It was a bit too sweet not to. The sad and slow realization that, wow, these guys are fucking losing to a 17-year-old Draven OTP and Kasing. Yeah, it was just rough. And I think a lot of the discourse around there has already kind of been had, right? And I think you guys already have a pretty solid idea of how you're probably going to approach spring. To me, I think, like you say, proof of concept is important, and this was a very good understanding that everyone has to be bought in on the idea, right? Fundamentally. And hopefully that's something that we can see next split, because evidently I think after the whole thing with originally it was supposed to be Nash and Jack Spectra, it seemed like the expectations were a little bit too misaligned. But I think domestically it's very funny, and it's awesome to at the very least see a team who probably people weren't expecting to see, if you're a fan of the region, go to top 3 and make it to a live final. So that's awesome for them.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of learning lessons here for team ownership, for running a team, and appreciate the, I guess, transparency and the candid look at how things are ran, and also the hands up when that's all you can do. No levers to pull. That's all you got. So for that ends this season of the Sack Tap here on Power Spike. Until then, maybe off-season moves, something like that, until new things pop up. But a shorter run here for the Sack. They finish, was it 5th, 6th, I think? 5th, 6th down in the lower bracket run for NLC Winter. Oh, okay. Well, with that, time to remind you about one of the friends here on the show that help power everything in Power Spike. It's our friends that we've told you about multiple times and use to this day, AG1. Time to check in on your resolutions and goals that y'all have set for yourself. Has AG1 been something that you guys have used? Because I have, and your boy is gaining muscle nonstop thanks to my friends over at AG1. I've stuck with my plans. I've stuck with everything. Haven't gotten sick. And has been a huge part of my daily routine, thanks to the friends over at AG1. It is the nutritional supplement that I use in the morning to kick off my day and make sure that my gut health is good and stay on top of supporting my immune health. Now, Dom has told you multiple times, the taste is good. When you think about other health drinks, sometimes it suffers there. Not the case. Pineapple core, vanilla, a huge part of AG1. And it has been just a step in the right direction for us staying healthy. So if you guys at home want to try AG1, it's never too late. So try it for yourself. Something I've been able to stay consistent with for my health reasons, and that's why we're partnering here with AG1. So we're offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. It's a welcome kit, a bottle of D3, K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/LFNlegends to get this offer. That's drinkag1.com/LFNlegends to start your new year on a healthier note. Thanks to our friends over at AG1. And thanks to you all for supporting the podcast. If you've been on the fence about getting right with your health, AG1 is here to support, and you can support the show as well. drinkag1.com/LFNlegends. All right. Well, we go from, I guess one NLC disappointment, a team in the NLC disappointment, to everything being not so great in a whole region, and that is the LTA. Dom, you had a great tweet to kick it off, and that's where we're going to focus first in this week's Everything is on Fire. It's the conclusion of the first LTA split. Dom, I really appreciated your tweet. I thought it was fair. I thought, it was a good focus, stat-driven focus on the LTA in terms of the BO3 semifinals, in terms of the viewership, in terms of the scheduling. It felt like, we'll get to the matches in a second. We also had the bug that finished the game for Cloud9 TL and not a clear reasoning. You had an owner kind of chastising number 1 seed upset kind of thing. It just felt like there was a little bit of cloud here in the first
Team
LTA
Liquid social media manager call Nadeshot a pedophile.
They used a meme inappropriately.
Yeah.
It was
I mean, the intention is clearly to call Nate a pedophile, though, right? Like that is the like joke. Like the joke was supposed to be, because like in the League community, everyone calls each other pedophiles. That's like the thing in the League community.
We should not be doing that, by the way. I don't condone that. None of us condone that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think it's right, but I mean, I assume that, like, I always feel like, okay, you're a social media manager, right? I'm not a fucking social media manager. I'm not like on fucking Twitter like that. Like you see, like when I tweet, I send out my tweets on Twitter. That's pretty much it, right? But I mean, everyone knows that is like a, hey, Drake, I know you like them young. Like that, everyone knows that's the next line, right? That is not something where we're going to...
It is not.
I know.
Okay. There's no way we're going to pretend that's ignorance, right? We're not going to just sit here and be like, oh, you didn't know the way the meme worked. Like, you're a social media manager. Like, obviously, they just went for something edgy and it missed.
Yeah. A lot of kind of misfires here. Jamada, when you think about this LTA split, the best of threes, the shortened season for teams that get knocked out after 2 series, the I guess playoffs being in Brazil, and then all the LATAM LTA South teams getting knocked out early. What do you make of this LTA split?
I just fundamentally long term, I don't know how it's supposed to drive basically anything in a positive direction. Whether it's like if you're a worse team, it's like you could play 4 games and be done, or like 5 games, 6 games, you can be done, right? I don't know how the worst teams get better. I feel like if you're a Brazilian team, it's like cool, you get to exist in your own little ecosystem, your own little bubble, and then you come and play against the NA teams. And seemingly, and this is always the projection, if you're not going to clean up your macro, cool, you might have a fun first 15, 20 minutes of the game, which felt like a lot of the opening game of basically every NA versus South American team. Afterwards, you're just going to get played around with on the map, right? So to me, I kind of look at everything and then think, you mentioned the time zone, things like when it's happening, all of these different aspects. I don't know what exactly is supposed to be good right now for the LTA as a region. Things just feel really bad, and I think at the very least, given how much time I feel like seemed available, we could have probably done a double elim bracket, right? Like if we're gonna have so many best of threes, I think the least we could have done was a double elim once we actually hit playoffs. But the fact that we go so far into playoffs without best of 5s, right? Only finals and best of 5s. It's just like we're playing so few games. If you're a bad team, your split is done in 2 weeks. I don't know how this is supposed to drive up the floor for either North America or South America for that matter either. And the watching experience just feels objectively worse. I feel like if that's what's basically just going to happen on repeat, because I don't think anyone is really expecting much less. I fear.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think the thing that stayed consistent that was class was the talent, right? I loved listening to Cap. I love listening to Kobe, Azale, Jat, like the whole crew. Like that was great. I love Azale and Color, but like as a play-by-play, doing great. But
and even that got criticized.
I like the crowd. I know, and that got criticized by Jacob Top, the owner of 100 Thieves, which was kind of whatever. That was dumb. That was so dumb. And then they lose to the 4 seed. So my bad. Huge upset in the LTA. Team Liquid upset the fuck out of the number 1 seed, best team in LTA after 6, 8, 9 games. I don't know how many games they played. 100 Thieves caught. All right, go ahead, Dom. What did you make of this play?
I mean, I just feel like there's no real logic behind it. It's just cost saving, right? That's all it can be. There's like 9 broadcast days for both splits combined. It's 9 broadcast days as opposed to, a split where you actually have to pay people for, like 21 or something like that. Which would be like a normal like LTA split with playoffs and everything. There's no chance that it actually makes the Brazilian teams better, because the teams in LTA South, they play these are the majority of the best of series they're going to play against NA. They play these, and then there's no interaction between either split in spring. And then the only interaction that they have is, again, in summer, there'll be 3 best of 5s. So we're probably already done with the majority of the interaction between the teams. And like, unless you are consistently playing against teams, it's not going to make you better. Like if it made you that much better, then all these teams that went to Worlds, like NA and EU, would instantly get better, right? Like we went to Worlds, we played against the best teams, and then you just don't play against them for like 6 months, come back, oh shit, they're doing completely different things. Now they're better at different aspects of the game. The game has changed fundamentally. Like we can now see their take on it. I mean, it's just very hard to have this actually work. The LCS brand being gone is like just so weird. It's like so unnecessary, because they could have just called this LCS and CB LOL, and they could have called, when they play against each other, LTA, and it would have been completely fine. And then you just have like LCS 1 seed versus like CB LOL 4 seed, and then that would be like the LTA matches, and you just keep like the player the branding that has already existed. So it just sucks for everyone. Sucks for NA fans, sucks for CB LOL fans. Like originally I thought the idea was going to be like way cooler. I thought they were going to have like both leagues running, there'd be more collaboration. And then once I saw like the way that they're doing it, I mean, feels like they just want the league to fail, honestly. Like that's my main interpretation, is it just feels like it can't be accidental that all these things happen at the same time. There's not this level of incompetence. I don't believe. Like it's just too many things. It would be so perfect for everything to fail to this regard. I mean, before the matches were played, the idea was that the time zone would be in NA time zone. So you start the matches around like 6 Brazilian time, which is 1 PST, which is the time that LCS normally starts, or LTA North normally starts. So at least you're not playing directly into LEC. But yeah, I mean, we just had LTA finals during LEC. Like there was not even any part of LCS finals or LTA finals that was not directly coinciding with LEC. So yeah, I mean, the scheduling was bad. The format was super bad. The branding sucked. People don't enjoy it. The trophy looks like a fucking joke. Like it's just so like weird. It's just so pathetic. I don't know. I just hate it. So I tried to do the most out of like all the content creators for LTA. Like I fully covered LTA South and LTA North. I didn't miss a game, except for when they were playing at the same time where I had to choose one. And it just feels like I care more than the people that make the decisions. And I don't think that this is like Mark Z or like, the talent. Like, I think this is just higher ups being like, yeah, it's like, we're just going to cut costs and like, go fuck yourself. Like, here's what you get. That's how I feel from somebody who enjoys the league. Right. So maybe it's wrong. Maybe they really care and they're just really bad. But in that case, like, why not just give more agency to the people that really care? Like, why not give more agency to Mark Z to actually make decisions on how the LTA should run in that case? So yeah, I mean, I just like know that the talent's not happy to do this. Like, you think that like Azale and Captain Flowers like, wow, that was fucking great. That was a great split. That's exactly what I wanted. You think that that's what people actually think, that are like that are putting everything into the LCS, the people that have been there for years. Hell no. It's all about like just people forcing this on the talent, forcing this on the teams, forcing this on the players, and forcing it on the viewers eventually. So, I mean, it goes down as the biggest failure in the history of like the LCS/LTA now when it comes to like viewership retention. And I mean, things were actually on the up for LCS in 2024 summer. Like it felt like more people were actually enjoying watching the LCS. We had two teams that are pretty competitive. Like TL had a respectable MSI showing for an NA team, able to beat Fnatic. There have like a decent series against T1 at EWC. They beat Fnatic again, had another competitive series against T1. They were playing pretty well domestically. FlyQuest was also playing pretty well, and they had like that best of 5 where it ended with like the minion backdoor. Then at Worlds, you had like FlyQuest have the competitive series with GenG. So it feels like people were like, oh shit, NA is like not garbage anymore. Like I'm more excited to watch it. And then they just get fed this. And there's so many like bad, I mean, so like obviously people know I work with C9 now, but like there's so many like weird things about competing in this format. Like you only play 4 weeks. There was only 4 weeks of competition. If you had the same path that C9 had, which is win your first week, you have one best of 3 1 week. The next week you have another best of 3. If you win that, you just play like a best of 1 seeding. Best of 1 seeding, like that's also a fucking joke, by the way. But you play a best of 1 seeding, and then after that best of 1 seeding, you don't play the third week. Like the third week is for the teams that lost to then qualify. So you play 2 weeks, 1 week break, fly to Brazil, play 1 best of 3, and then you have a best of 3 semifinals into a best of 5 finals. Like a best of 3 semifinals. Like didn't we realize this shit was garbage in like fucking 2013? Like no other league is doing best of 3 semifinals besides for maybe like I don't know what the fuck they do in whatever it is, LCP. Maybe they do best of 3 semifinals. I have no clue.
LCP did best of 3, yeah.
Okay. I'm
checking.
But that is like essentially a glorified minor region, right? Realistically, like, if we're being honest.
It is.
Yeah, like 3 teams that come out of there. Usually it's Talon,
No, they had
Oyster, and
best, I just checked right now. They have best of 5 semifinals. So
Okay, that's
not even they do best of 3 semifinals. We're the only region that does best of 3 semifinals.
It just doesn't make sense.
And it's supposed to, and the thing that's so fucking stupid about it is it's supposed to be more teams competing in this. It's LTA North and South. It's a 16-team league, theoretically. It's a 16-team league with 1 best of 5 in the entire split. What the fuck? Like, actually, it's like shameful. It's completely shameful.
Yeah. I think it's difficult to plan for if you're a player. I think it's tough to keep track of if you're a fan. We saw the Reddit post where there was a lot of people saying, hey, where's the rollover to my schedule? Where's the rollover to from LEC? And I know that was frustrating before for players, I guess, in LCS, where at times like they were like super dedicated on it. So the start time would, be dynamic and get pushed. I don't even think it needs to be that. I think it just needed to start a little bit later and, start later enough that we're like, okay, start on game 3 of, or after game 3 of LEC, and weren't able to get that one done. So for me, I think it's just a bummer to see that all of us and all these posts and I think the discourse comes from how much we love the region, how much we've learned from the region, how much nostalgia there is waiting to pop off and waiting to come back. And and I think that just wants to be realized is probably the best way to put it. So with that said, we did have some games. We did have 100 Thieves with the upset over FlyQuest, Team Liquid defeating Cloud9 in 3, and then going Team Liquid just taking care of business there over with the upset over 100 Thieves. So Jamada, when you take a look at the games themselves, what jumps out at you there? Where do you feel like will you remember this as this playoffs as we look forward to a first stand in the rest of the season?
Umpty may be saving his job. Well, actually, no. Spawn coming in and saving Umpty's job maybe is the more apt way to put it. Because the guy might just be the Umpty whisperer. I mean, I still think he had some questionable moments. Umpty still remained, I would say, on the weaker end of his spectrum. That said, TL generally just looked better. And I think a lot of that came down to Umpty not dropping death record games anymore. And I overall think TL's... I think that early games got significantly better because Umpty was just griefing a lot less. I don't think there's much to report there. I had a lot more, I think.
I don't think he was griefing less. I actually disagree. I think he was griefing like a ton. I think he played fucking terrible, to be honest. But like, it is what it is.
I don't think it was like as bad. I still think he was bad, but like comparatively to the opening of it when he was still playing in the original bracket.
I mean, he didn't die 12 times.
I agree with Jamada. I agree with Jamada that just factually he went from like a 1
like,
to
it's not a high bar. It's not a high bar, I'll admit. But yeah. So
I mean, the Xinjiao game, he like died 3 times in like terrible ways, and they still just like. I mean, he like, and I just feel like people just didn't follow his ints as much. Like before, it was like the whole team was getting killed because he was inting.
I can get behind
but like
that.
Here, they kind of just like accepted like Umpty's inting, like he's dead, and they just played their own game. They like played it like 4v5, you know, which was smart. I agree.
It's definitely the tactically better thing. Otherwise, I don't know if I'm more surprised with 100 Thieves results / like kind of in-game development as I am with FlyQuest just kind of seemingly throwing games away. I don't know where my read is yet. I still feel like I need to watch back the series like 2 more times to even reasonably feel like I can understand it. That said, I still feel like 100 Thieves thematically are the same, right? They've just gotten significantly better. Or significantly might be a strong word, but they've gotten a lot better at the things they're really good at, which is predominantly just skirmishing and team fighting, right? I think they've definitely taken a big step up there. And seemingly between maybe a little bit of draft and some other issues that maybe FlyQuest were dealing with, who knows? They just ended up being in the best of 3. But I feel like if that's a best of 5, I would have more faith in FlyQuest to probably just drag it to 5 and win. So I think that's also maybe another issue of like format, which I don't not to drag it back to format, but makes me kind of wonder, like, if that's a best of 5, does that just go to 5 and FlyQuest win, right?
No, just to hammer that one home, I think about how many times, like the Nongshim GenG series, how different the narrative would have been if it was, if it was best of 3, Nongshim threw at the Nexus, they threw game 2, GG. That series ends up being like almost one of the biggest upsets in LCK history, in Korean League of Legends history, because of how different those 2 squads are, because it was a 5-game series and an early game lead for Nongshim in game 5. You just don't get to have those types of moments in LTA. Gameplay wise, Dom, you know, obviously we talk Umpty, most fearless player in the LTA. He played the most champions after beating the allegations of being Volley Bear. And,
I mean, he locked in the most champions.
He locked in the most champions. Okay.
Yeah.
He technically beat the allegations.
I mean,
did
like
OJ commit murder, or was he guilty? You know, like, I don't know. I mean, you know,
he locked in Wukong and like made a game that should have been over in like 20 minutes, like a fucking like 35-minute game, and then they just never played it again. And it's like, nice, got the Wukong game in. I'm the most fearless player. Like what? Like, I mean, I guess, bro, nice.
I think he's got a suspended sentence, which means he's guilty, but he's not going to serve time. You know, like I think that's what's going on here.
Oh my gosh. All right. What when you think about the matches, you go back in those top 4 teams, because those were the best teams I think that LTA North could have sent. And LTA. What will you remember this last couple of days of playoffs for split 1?
I think 100 Thieves.
This is for Dom.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Dom.
I don't know. Like it just feels very like fake. It just feels like it didn't, like, I don't know. It's like the finals just felt like not a final. Like normally, like when a team wins a trophy, it just feels like cool. And it's like they won a trophy in front of a full Brazilian crowd, and it had the lowest amount of viewers of all time. Like, I guess, like, nice. And then we go to best of ones next split, and people are going to be really upset about that once we get into best of ones.
Yep. Especially
Especially now that people have been exposed to Fearless Draft. So I don't know. It just feels like we're watching something die. It just feels like depressing, I would say. That's the main takeaways. It just feels like there's like this very sad air about watching the LTA these days.
Okay, here's the silver lining, because I'll be the silver lining guy. The silver lining for me is that with the way that the bracket shook up and the results of the bracket shook up, it meant that minimal to no of the LATAM viewership that would be there could carry over. I think if one team gets an upset, which, as you know, we all predicted wasn't going to happen, but if it did happen, you're not going to get viewership lower than what we had, right? Like that is the silver lining. If there is an upset, then that viewership spike that we saw in the first week of the joint playoffs between LTA South and LTA North, it'll have more viewership. So I feel like it doesn't get worse than this, which isn't much of a silver lining, but it's the silver lining that I got. So we'll see. Team Liquid are your champions. The first time since EG defeated 100 Thieves, or no, Cloud9 defeated 100 Thieves. Sorry, 100 Thieves. Back in 2022, where we got a 3-0 finals for the Americas region. So Team Liquid moving on to the finals. Jan getting MVP. Thoughts on that? Do you feel like that? How do you feel like Jan has been in his growth here, Dom?
I mean, I think he looks like he could be the best player in LTA right now. He just looks like he can play everything. His mechanics are solid. I think the balling in general is just really good. Like Core and Jan, I mean, they were the main carry of this team. They were by far the most consistent part of it. And yeah, it just felt like they were in the flow state. So, I mean, that's the reason why they're winning right there is they have just a very strong bot lane that can play most things. And it's very hard to like draft against them because Core is so good at so many different champions as well. Like they have specialty picks, like they have the Draven, for example, that Yeon plays. They have the Pantheon that Core JJ plays, so teams are having to ban that. Then you have like the fact that they can play against Kalista. They're one of the teams that is willing to play against Kalista. They can play Kaisa comps, they can play Zaya, they can play poke comps like Ezreal Varus, this type of stuff as well. It just feels like they have the meta downloaded. And yeah, I mean, I think that Yeon has had pretty insane performance. I mean, even at Worlds, I feel like he was the bright spot of his team. It feels like he's just been good. Like since he started playing really well in spring of 2023, it feels like he's just been good ever since. Or 2024, he's been good ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, congrats to Jan and his growth throughout. It's been a lot of fun to watch. And Spawn getting the trophy yet again. Climbing up the ladders as GOAT coach of North America and the West. I think getting championships like that help. All right. Next up, before we get into a keeper kick in LPL or LCK version, we got a message from Monty reminding you about a new sponsor of ours with Quip.
Hey guys, this is Monte Cristo, and you're watching Power Spike, of course. And Power Spike is brought to you by the Quip 360 oscillating toothbrush. Guys, this electric toothbrush works fantastically. And if you guys haven't used an electric toothbrush before, you should know that it can remove up to 11 times more plaque between teeth compared to a manual toothbrush and provide up to 2 times more whitening on day one. Also, compared to other electric toothbrushes I've used, this one feels a lot better. It's smaller and it's a lot quieter as well. It also has a 30-day charge on it, so you rarely need to recharge this thing. It's been utterly fantastic. I've been using it for months now, so you should definitely check it up. Time to level up your oral hygiene game, guys. And Quip 360 is a great way to do that. Just for listeners, that's you guys, of Power Spike, get 20% off site-wide and a free travel case and countertop stand at getquip.com/spike. Free your mouth today and save 20% site-wide, plus a free travel case and countertop stand at getquip.com. It's QUIP/spike. Getquip, QUIP.com/spike. Go get it today, guys. They also have water flossers, which is another way that you can really make your mouth significantly cleaner. Your dentist will be very impressed with you, as mine is whenever I go. Thanks for watching, guys, and thank you to Quip.
I really want to hammer home water flossers. It's a game changer for your teeth, for your gums. Make sure to check that one out. Again, quip.com, QUIP.com/spike for 20% off, plus the travel case and stand. Thanks to our friends over at Quip. And again, letting you know products that we use. All right. Next up, we got Keep or Kick, and we're talking about a couple of world's favorites that are in a little bit of trouble in the first portion of the 2025 season. That would be GenG and not out yet, but in the lower bracket, BLG. Who do you keep and who do you kick? Their performances so far in 2025. Let's get into it. So we got two angles for this, right? We can go, how have they done based on expectations coming into the season? Or we can go to, hey, GenG finished second. Wherever BLG finishes, I guess that depends. If they win, great. If not, whose disappointment is bigger? So let's go with that one. Whose disappointment would be bigger? Would it be BLG's disappointment would be bigger, or GenG's disappointment would be bigger for not making first stand? It is a hypothetical because so far BLG are not out, but they were on the lower side of the bracket. Jamada, let's start with you here.
I think then it would just, by default, it would be BLG, because even with all of the very fun rosters and strong-looking rosters that got put together before we even saw them play in the LPL, I think everyone, myself included, just had BLG still pegged at number one, right? I will say, I feel like because of the nature of the format, losing that best of 5 to TT, knocking them down into lower bracket, I think it overblows maybe the fears of like kind of where BLG might be at in the pecking order. Just because, like they're not living with a GA, they have to go through the entire thing, but they've looked convincing enough to me that I see no reason for them to not just basically walk all the way through, right? Even JDG today, who lost to AL, I feel like they have enough of their own issues that BLG just, to me, don't have relating to like draft and just general levels of gameplay, whether it's objective setup or micro, that I still see them going all the way to finals. So I feel like, for me, if they were to not make it to Last Stand, that would be the bigger disappointment for sure. Because at least in my head, I still do view them as categorically the best team in the LPL. I just think that it was a one-off bad day against TT. TT have by all metrics had a very, very successful split anyway, not just in results, but also in terms of just showing off. And players like Hoya, Beichuan, these guys have just played far above expectations, whether it's mechanically or just syncing up with the rest of their team. I think that really just shook a lot of faith. But to me, I still feel like BLG are just going to do the business, right? I don't see Top Esports as a particularly strong team. I feel like Kanavi, I think he got third All-Pro, and I feel like that was a little bit fraudy on voters' parts, but I won't go too in depth on it. And overall, Top Esports, I just see as a far more volatile team with issues that we highlighted around like Cream's champion pool. I feel like that's something that is kind of not being lent into enough. I think his mage play is not as good as I was hoping it would be based on what we saw from 24 coming into 25, and it's basically all mages. They're not leaning on enough of his champion pool when they can. I know it's hard in best of 5 fearless, but I feel like philosophically you want to try and keep Cream as comfortably as possible when it comes to champion pool, and they've not done that. And I think they've just had other big shortcomings in terms of, like, I don't feel like Jackie Love and Crisp are playing as well as they need to be. I think they're stable, but I think for that team to look good, I think that team needs to play at its ceiling. And I don't see Top Esports playing anywhere near that ceiling. I think if anything, comically, it's not even come from the bot lane. It's 369 has probably been like the most consistent player on that roster off the top of my head. I don't think there's really a close contender for that.
Sure. Dom, how do you view this between these two worlds contenders?
Well, I guess I'll just keep BLG because they're still in and can still win the split. And GenG was very weird to watch this split because it's so strange to me. And the reason why I wanted Hanwha Life to win LCK is I felt like GenG was just underperforming for like their standards pretty consistently. Like Chovy had probably the worst split I remember him having since like maybe even like 2020. I don't even know. Like it might even be longer than that. Like
I think this might be his worst split period. I think when against like expectations, to be honest with you, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chovy just didn't look like Chovy to me. I mean, normally he was just in like the amount of mistakes that Chovy would make would be very, very small. Where now I see him making like a lot of mistakes he didn't normally make. I think Canyon had also one of his worst splits, and a lot of the games where GenG would win, I would kind of just be like, oh, like, I mean, didn't they win 2 games versus Hanwha Life when Peanut was like playing Zyra? Like every time I see Peanut play Zyra, I'm like, GG. like as a betting man, I'm just always
taking that one away.
Yeah, as soon as Peanut locks in Zyra, I'm like, what are the odds? What are the odds? Like, I'm like, can I go on GenG here? Like, I don't know, man. Peanut Zyra, it just loses always. So, I feel like GenG, like sometimes they look like themselves, but it just felt like everyone was underperforming on that roster outside of Keen. I think Keen was solid. Keen was good. Sometimes he got fucked. Like the Vayne game wasn't a great situation. But I think everyone was underperforming. So it kind of goes to show how good GenG is that they almost won a championship while completely underperforming. They went to game 5 in a finals while like everyone was playing worse than expected, which is scary. But I'll kick them because I mean, there was like, look, obviously there was some bad moments for BLG. BLG did lose to TT, but GenG had that like Nongshim series, which I think was like pretty damning. Like that, they really didn't look like themselves in the Nongshim series. And then just a lot of the games that I saw GenG play throughout the split just felt very like weird. I mean, Duro was having some really big int moments. Ruler was getting caught all the time. Like that is not the Ruler that I remember in 2023 or before.
Bro.
Like,
Yeah.
Ruler is getting caught so often on mid waves. Like every now and then he's just making these like really like weird plays. Like for example, when he got solo kill, like he's playing into an Aatrox in a lane swap, and obviously his support was not there yet, but he's in a 1v1 situation, and just Aatrox gets a solo kill on him. Zeus gets a solo kill with electrocute Aatrox at like level 1. I feel like these are just not Ruler plays that he used to make. So yeah, I'm not high on either of these things. I think BLG's also been underperforming, but I still think that they have a chance to win it. I think at BLG, a lot of their problems came down to like drafting. I think BLG has generally had like drafts that are very hard to play. Like they had this one Pantheon LeBlanc Elise draft where it's like you have so much McDonald's in this draft, so many just useless picks where you're just trying to outplay them. And then also they just like were giving teams really good comps. Like they gave TT a Rumble Yone Sejuani comp, which is like the TT bread and butter. And they tried to play a Smolder comp into it, which is not really BLG. So I feel like BLG is still probably in a better spot. And I'll just keep them because I think that they will actually I think the real final is JDG versus BLG. I think whoever wins that is probably going to win the LPL. I think AL is probably going to get cooked in the finals.
Why? Why is that? I mean, we just saw AL outdraft and
because I just don't think because I think that you can draft in a way where they have to play the game. Like I don't think you can just outdraft a team super hard that has like that plays like solidly. Like if they just play solid drafts, I think that they won't end up losing like this. They opened the series with like a Jace Nidalee like poke comp where it's like if they just opened the series and they were just trading like Ezreal for Kai'Sa and stuff like this, I feel like JDG just has better players than AL. And I think that AL, like what they're good at for the most part. And I think that if you now having this series under your belt and being able to see, I think both BLG and JDG will be able to analyze the series and just come up with solid drafts that are not as exploitable as the drafts they came up with. Like it's very hard to have this, like there's a reason why I'm saying that Tabi completely outclassed, because CV Max's drafts were like as fucking bad as possible. Like they have no identity and they're almost winning that game with no identity. It's very easy to just like lock in a couple solid champions and just be like, yeah, maybe our draft is only slightly worse now and we win by default, because we're just better players.
All right. Well, there you have it. Both of the analysts here on Power Spike keeping BLG 1-4, mostly because they still are favorites to win the LPL, whereas GenG had off days and still made it to the finals. A respectable finish to the season, which was kind of wonky over in the LCK based on results, and T1 being 6th, Nongshim being 3rd, 4th. But keeping BLG. If you at home agree, let us know in the comments below. If you disagree, let us know and why. Because I was there, and it the only reason why I would keep GenG, I would actually keep BLG, but the reason why I would keep GenG is because Duro is so young and still new with that roster, and Ruler is so used to.
Isn't Duro like 23 or something?
No, but Duro doesn't
young
have
in
a
his
lot
career.
of,
Young of his
like,
career.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of top flight experience, right? And
But he's been playing like competitive. I mean, he's been playing in academy since 2021. I feel like that's like.
I still feel like he's kind of hard done by contextually, right? Like this GenG lineup, I think to me realistically needs an IGL out of the support role, and I think being the player that he is in the point of his career, you sit him down next to Ruler, Chovy, Canyon, Keen.
Exactly.
How the fuck do you ever com anything to these guys?
I mean, I don't know.
right?
Delight did it pretty early on in Delight's career.
Yeah,
right?
but I think even if Delight did it, I think people are always going to be different when they roll into like different environments. And I don't know what the environment is like at GenG and how open they are to having a player like Duro give an experience gap. Like,
well, I'm sure that gets facilitated. But what we do know is that most of the time when we heard open comms, they would play replays or whatever. A lot of the time you're hearing Duro say, Myan, which is sorry. He was saying sorry a lot to the guys. In victories, be like, sorry, I died a lot. In the replay where he steals like a kill, he goes, oh, I'm sorry, Canyon. It was just a lot of sorry, which just feels like a lot of that older senior player, younger player kind of mechanics at work and figuring itself out in this squad. And I think I'm not saying that I think they're the same skill level, but I'm saying the impact that they had on a weaker team. Let's take Milky Way and stick him onto X team, JDG, BLG, AL, something like that. That kind of lopsidedness, you know how great he can be. He had a huge impact on a team that had no business being that good, because once the team fell out, you saw how bad the team was. That was BNK Phoenix. They're last place now. They're last place. That was the team that Duro's on when he came in the middle of the split last season. He changed the team into a playoff team. That was him. So I like the idea. I like the pickup. And that would be the only reason why I have hope. What doesn't give me hope is the ruler getting caught out kind of stuff. Playmaking 80 carry, not a clean up 80 carry like Pays, which is why when Pays was trying to make plays in that game 5 with the flanking misfortune stuff, I was like, oh, this isn't gonna end good. But he's now playing too far on the edge, and it wasn't Duro's fault. Go back to it was a Varus game against Hama Life Esports, or against D plus Kia. It was ass. So that makes me a little worried, which is why I would take BLG over it. I think they can just steal their skills and rehone their skills through this lower bracket run. But yeah. Okay. All right. That was a good keeper kick. 2 more segments to go. But before we do, it's time to remind you about our friends over at ExpressVPN. Did you know that going online without ExpressVPN is like not closing the door when you use the bathroom? Even though you think you have nothing to hide, why give random creeps a chance to invade your privacy? I'm just reading the script. It has nothing to do with what we were bringing up earlier and what everyone calls League of Legends guys. You know what? That stops those kind of people. ExpressVPN. All your traffic flows through the ExpressVPN networks. Internet service providers know every single website you visit. And anyways, it reroutes 100% of your traffic through secure encrypted servers so ISPs can't see your browsing history. It hides your IP address. It's easy to use. And my parents, they're visiting here in Korea right now, and it works on all their devices. So mom wants to pop on Netflix, boom, done. Still has the full library back in the States. It's been great to be able to log in across multiple different locations. So protect your privacy online today by visiting expressvpn.com/powerspike. That's expressvpn.com/powerspike, and you can get an extra 4 months free. expressvpn.com/powerspike. Thanks to our friends over at ExpressVPN for giving us the hookup for the #1 rated VPN service by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. That's expressvpn.com/powerspike for 4 extra free months. All right. Now, let's head on over to a good old fraud alert. We are almost done with the playoffs, and we've had teams fall out early. We've had teams fall out later. We've had teams stumble but still be in it. And it's time to call out our biggest frauds. So let's get into it. Fraud alerts from the first portion of the 2025 season. All right, Jamada, you're up first. Call them out and give the level of fraudulency. This one is one where I'm not presenting one to you. You get to pick.
Okay, now I know at least
individual.
Down in the
I know people are trying to throw out like
there's
trying to throw out.
You want an individual?
teams.
I kind of want to do a team.
Okay, all
I'll
right.
keep it brief.
You do a team and then an individual in the team.
Okay, sure.
Come on, Jamada, you're on the show.
Fine.
Welcome.
And this is more against the community narrative than anything else. GiantX. Because I feel like people got really, and you were one of them. And I'm
I was
sorry,
one of
dGon. I'm
them.
like, don't get me wrong. Awesome to see GiantX look better than last year in a lot of aspects of their play, and specifically like Noah and Jun coming in, and Noah looking more confident, Jun making like game-winning support plays like 24/7. Admittedly, you look at who they actually beat to like garner them all of this momentum. dGon, do you remember who it was? I remember who it was. Do you remember?
Well,
Because
it wasn't G2 who beat
it was
them in the playoffs.
it wasn't G2.
I mean,
Movistar Koi, which also beat them in the playoffs. So yeah.
Go on. What's up, Dob?
I was gonna say, I mean, they had the rogue game that lasted 60 minutes in match 1, where they got hype for it.
And they still managed to get hype for this fucking game, bro. Look,
Was that who you were looking for?
for GiantX?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my fraud team, man. I'm sorry. We move into best ofs and they just get railed. They made Team Heretics like they had to sweat in the Team Heretic series. Legitimately sweat in the Team Heretic series. And then they finally played a good team again in a best of in Koi, and they just got touched. It was ridiculous. They just from start to finish, out-disciplined everywhere on the map. Every objective, every single like miniature interaction of a skirmish, GiantX were just outplayed.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. To me, I love the hype because I was a big fan of Noah and Jun last year on Fnatic. But like the other pieces that I mean, like, you know, Closer kind of transforming KC in summer. Everyone was like, cool, Closer should be like a really stable piece in GiantX. I don't feel like he's necessarily fulfilled every single. I'm not gonna put like a whole bunch of blame on Closer individually, but then like Jackie still has a lot of the individual issues that he had from last year, rolling into this year too, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like getting caught on side lane or just getting caught on waves you shouldn't be getting caught on in general. Kind of making hero plays for nothing more but the love of the game. I feel like this team has the potential to be good, but they all need to just kind of collectively sit down and be like. And just rein in like the more wild aspects of their gameplay.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, we did a episode of Sackdown with Jackie's, and Yamato and I told Jackie's that his team was a fraud team to his face. I don't know if that.
I didn't catch the Sackdown episode where that happened, so I might have to go back and watch that now.
Yeah, we just said it like, yep, doesn't look good. He's like, really? Like, really? I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
Don't
so
believe.
I don't know. It was a really sad watch to me, right? Again, I like part bought into the hype. I'm not gonna pretend like I didn't. After the first like 2 weeks, I was like, damn, okay, maybe there's room for this GiantX team to like kind of compete for lower end top 4, like 5th, 4th. But after this weekend, I don't know. They really have to go back to the drawing board for me to feel like comfortable to kind of put them up there. And I feel like the top teams in the LEC right now are actually pretty good, in my mind at least, right?
For
I won't go
Fnatic.
on too long. But Fnatic need to work on their icon setups. I think that's something we can all universally agree on. But yeah, like, I don't know. GiantX just really pissed me off with how they played. But I think more specifically, how they managed to make easy games look difficult, and then also just get outclassed by the objectively good teams in the league like Koi and G2.
Yeah, lo siento a los gigantes. I did jump on that train pretty well. Actually, I think that's a pretty good point, Jamada. So that was a good one. All right, Dom, it's your turn. Who or what is your fraudulent? I guess
I'm gonna go
actor of 2025.
I am going to go for BDD. I think BDD was pretty fraudulent.
Bro.
Yeah. 3-0'd by Nong Shim.
Real.
Wait, you're on KT. You got 3-0'd by Nong Shim. Like,
It's the okay. Go ahead. I'll defend later.
I mean, I just think that he played really bad in that series. I mean, Fisher is like, to me, I think Fisher is not good, right? I've never been a Fisher enjoyer.
I know. You are one of the biggest Fisher haters. Like,
yeah, I am
sure.
one of the biggest Fisher haters. I mean, I don't think he's elite in in LCK. I mean, maybe now if he's better than BDD, he's like the 5th best mid, but I don't think that he is actually a good player. I know he had a good series versus GenG by Fisher standards, but I don't know. I feel like BDD really just like, you can't let Fisher take you out like this. Like, I just thought he played bad throughout the series. Like, I didn't really like his Ari. He had the moment where he got 1v2'd by King. It's just, for somebody who is considered like an elite mid in the LCK, that did not look like an elite performance. And I do feel like he does have like some like choking aspects or just some like underperformance in big game aspects that I don't like about him. And yeah, I mean, they came in as pretty big favorites into the series, and the way that they looked was just like, yeah, it was just kind of sad. Like, I don't know. I was not a fan of Mr. BDD in playoffs.
Yeah, I think you have the right team. I think you have the wrong culprit. For me, it's dGon. I think dGon and Wei made it impossible for BDD to do anything. Like the KT games in that series felt like.
But, I mean, BDD just like failed to do what he had when he had plays. Like he just failed his plays. So it's like,
yeah, but it just felt like guy in the stick. Like, come on, do something. With BDD. I guess you could blame BDD for not doing anything, or BDD didn't get to scale because his team fell behind so hard. Wei, the rookie that they trust, which highly touted, was a big part of the combo with Wei and Hype back in Challengers. Hype then moved on over to Brion, loaned on over to Brion with Hambach. Also, Cuz didn't have a lot to do. It just felt like the parts around BDD for that series were it. I felt like this is more of a personal vendetta because he lost to Fisher, who has, unfortunately, every time you've seen him, has been crap. And he was not this cup. He's probably the most improved player in the tournament based on previous expectation. When they signed Fisher and they kept Fisher, it was like, oh God, this feels bad. Is there no one else left? And Nongshim ended up growing and showing up a lot more than usual. So that's my only defense there for BDD, but I get it. He's one of the 4 gods. He should be not losing to Nongshim, especially when the ball's in his court. So, all right. I think for me, and I think this is more of a let's support our boy Berserker. It's Life. I think Life came on in over in the DN Freaks. Let's see what Berserker looks like for the first time playing in the LCK. Berserker had really nice things to say about his teammate. He was like, wow, he's the most knowledgeable person I've ever met. He said that in an interview. And Life looked like he did not know how to fucking play support. That was the only thing that he didn't have knowledge about. My dude was inting the fuck out of Berserker's games and making it nearly impossible for him to do anything. And it made Berserker kind of look like at times a KDA player when he wasn't playmaking and stepping in front and doing all the things that we know Berserker to do, kind of matadoring a lot more. Otherwise, it was just on the back foot and this team could not function. So I for me, it's Life. And I don't think there's an easy, quick fix there for the DN Freaks unless somehow they find money and buy Pleta from DRX's academy. That would be the only move that's there. There's a quality support on DRX Academy just sitting on the bench, but no one has the money to do that. So yeah, those are our frauds. Pretty good picks in the early portion of the 2025 season. Do you agree or disagree? Did we miss someone? Is there a runner-up? Anyone feel strongly about a runner-up? Jamada, Dom? Any runner-ups for frauds?
Rookie was a fraud.
Ooh, that's another good one.
You know what, though?
I'm going for mid laners that are supposed to be good, well. that don't look great. Like, you're supposed to be great, rookie. You weren't great. Fraudulent performance from you.
Yep. No,
I'm a rookie ball gargler. Like,
oh, bro, tip to shaft. Me as well. But I could not defend what he was doing.
Yeah, no, it was a disgusting split.
Yeah, you could have.
It was like the one where I'm like, God damn, are you actually washed, or what the fuck is happening, rookie? This has been a pretty bad last 6 months from you, or 8 months, whatever it's been since summer.
We got the what are we sayings and the what is this show, and for me, I don't know. Never mind. Fraud alert. This was different.
This is the show.
This is different. This is the show. This was a different type of fraud alert this week. Let us know if you agree or disagree. you was it tip the balls to tip? Is that what you said, Jamada? Yeah,
I said
let us know
tip
that
the
too
ball
in the
shot.
comment.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, let us know who your frauds were in the comments, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe. One more segment to go before we do. It's time to remind you about our friends over at Turtle Beach. Now, winter has arrived, but don't panic. It's not a bad thing. It's an excuse to cancel all your plans and slap on your Turtle Beach headset and game till the sun finally decides to come back. Turtle Beach's new Gen 3 Stealth 700 headset picks up so much crystal clear sound. It's basically cheating. Even the snowblower going on outside, you will still be able to hear every footstep, every reload, and every enemy sneaking up on you like they're stomping through your living room. And Turtle Beach headsets are so freaking comfortable, you'll feel like you're wearing a marshmallow cloud pillow on your head. Best of all, the Stealth 700 has the industry's first ever cross-play dual wireless transmitter system. That means you can seamlessly switch between your console and PC with just the click of a button. It gets even better. While connected to your console, the Stealth 700 can connect with your phone for music streaming or taking calls or listening to your favorite Last Free Nation podcast. Now, for a limited time, get 10% off your entire order using the code SPIKE at turtlebeach.com. Don't miss out. Stay warm. Level up your game with 10% off at Turtle Beach using the code SPIKE. Again, 10% off. Use the code SPIKE. Thanks to our friends over at Turtle Beach. We use them now. Boom. Again, only products that you care about. They got a lot of different other equipment. So that 10% goes off to all different type of gaming equipment and apparel that you can get. So thanks to our friends over at Turtle Beach. Use the code SPIKE at turtlebeach.com. All right. Last one of the day. Fearless Draft takeaways is what the topic is. We've talked a lot about Fearless and what does it mean, what it doesn't mean. But as we move to first stand and, you know, teams like Team Liquid have only played one best of 5 Fearless Draft style. For everyone else, especially LPL and LCK, we've seen what has evolved and what kind of meta has evolved and, you know, the tier list of champs and then the straying away from it. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the biggest takeaways from Fearless in 2025 so far as we head on over to first stand. So let's get to it. This week's Galaxy Brain Club is Fearless Drafting. All right. So what I'm loving seeing, just early start here, is how quickly we're deviating away from a top lane meta that is so stagnant. It feels like when I watch LPL, when I watch LCK, here at the end of LCK, we were just no longer doing the Jace, Ambessa, Cassante, Rumble kind of like trade of 1 through 4 or something like that. Starting to see some more unique picks off the jump. When it comes to Fearless Drafting, and in the LCK, it was mostly wins on blue side. Not a lot of wins on red side. If you're on red side, you would do something super fucking weird, like we saw in the finals.
Peanut Zyra.
Vayne top, Peanut Zyra, Vayne top for Keen. Like it's weird stuff, and it feels like you're so resigned to being behind in the draft on red side that you're just willing to just chuck a game away with like a very weird pick. What have you seen in the draft here, Dom, that like are good trends and bad trends?
I would say like some of the good trends are like bot lane meta reads. I feel like before we were seeing a lot of like over prioritization of Ashe. And Varus was also like prioritized to like a ridiculous limit. Whereas now people are picking things that make sense with their comp. So if they have like Vi Ambessa 1-2, they'll pick like Kai'Sa on 3, and then they'll ban out whatever champions could be like good into Kai'Sa on 4 or 5 based on what the enemy team has drafted. So then maybe they'll ban out like a Varus and try to get Kai'Sa in easier lane. And then Kai'Sa will like be able to play the game. I think that's like a pretty good trend. People being more flexible with their 80 picks for the team comp. I would say a pretty bad trend that I've been seeing is like a lot of like the Ashe Azir lock-ins together. Like people have this mentality that, you know, Ashe is a utility 80 carry, and then Azir is a damage dealing 80 carry. So in theory, they make sense together.
Yep.
So that you or AP carry, but yeah, like the idea is that you have consistent damage from your mid laner, so you don't need to have the like consistent damage from your AD. And I feel like this just never ends up working. I actually feel like Azir, I don't know what Azir's win rate is like recently in like top tier LPL and LCK games, but it feels like I'm always seeing Azir lose, to be honest. These days, it doesn't feel like great when I see it locked in, and I think that people are kind of like misunderstanding the role of that. Yeah, I think that a lot of times we're starting to see people like overly focus on lane counters as opposed to making coherent team comps. This is another issue that I've seen a lot of time. It's like the Vayne top that we saw, right? Like the Vayne top, it's like, is that even that good into Aatrox? Is it really that good into Aatrox? Like versus Zeus Aatrox, like Zeus is the type of guy where he knows how to get through bad matchups. So if you counter pick him, you better be like picking something that like just makes it unplayable for the other guy. And yeah, I don't know. Like I just see like a lot of like these random counter picks that don't end up working. It's in the same thing we saw game number 2. You know, enemy team picks Renekton, and you know you need some stability when you have the Ashe Azir. You need some stability in this comp. You need like an Ornn or something to like bolster the comp. I think maybe Ornn got banned 4-5, but the point is you need something that actually makes the comp like able to function. And they just pick a Gnar, and it's like these lane counters don't really work to the same degree because there is lane swaps and everything in the game. So. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that it's been a little bit weird when it comes to how hard people are trying to counterpick in lanes, considering the lanes don't matter that much right now, as opposed to just picking comps that actually make sense.
Yeah, especially games 3, 4, and obviously 5. It really goes off the rails, and you're just, you know, you can see this is probably where the coach asked, "Hey, what feels good here?" And the player tells them a lane matchup, and you look at how it fits, and you're like, I don't fucking get this one. Jamada, what are some trends that you've seen from Fearless that you feel like have been learning lessons through the beginning of Fearless?
I mean, a lot of the points that Dom made, really, but I do like that a lot of teams globally, at least the successful teams, are giving their players a lot more freedom to kind of just say, hey, let's slam a lane matchup. And I don't think it always looks bad. I think importantly to me, I think you look at it as an example. I think G2 KC game 1, the draft from G2 was basically all direct 1-to-1 counters of their lane matchups, right? And I think you could probably point an argument to like Lebrov had an insane Blitzcrank game, and that's what made that like incredibly hard for KC to win that, as opposed to like it being holistically a draft diff. But yeah. I think there's ways that you can navigate those kind of drafts for it to work. So I like the general for the teams that like inherently like to pick weird stuff. This is good. Another like DK just existing, right? And really flexing their muscles in draft, with the exception of the final GenG series where they just decided to draft like normal. That was weird. Yeah, I feel like that takeaway for me is like the most positive. I'm still very skeptical overall of Fearless Draft and like its perception from the community. Not to try and drive too far away from the point here, because I feel like loads of people love Fearless because we are getting this diversity. But I think it's important to remember that Fearless is here because, in my mind, I don't even think like it's a team/player issue of not trying to pick more diverse champions. I've always seen it as a balance issue, and Fearless is a response to a balance issue of the game, not cycling in enough champions, right? So I'm kind of curious if now, once we kind of leave Fearless after this split, once we go back to regular drafting, if that's going to actually have a long-lasting impact on how teams decide to draft, right? That it's less of a takeaway and more of a look forward. I know, I apologize, but that's kind of how I look at the positives of what's happened in Fearless and go, okay, is this actually going to translate to teams being willing to pick some of the weird shit and adaptations that come out, you know, later in a draft earlier if they spot the positions to do it, right? Or is it just going to go directly back to, oh, yay, like, Vi's up, let's go Vi. Oh, Vi's there, right? Let's trade it for Sejuani. Let's go fucking, you know, Zeri. Let's go back to Zeri fucking Lucian meta, right? If it goes back to that, then yeah, that's going to suck. But I feel like there will be some teams that go out of their way to like take their learnings from Fearless and kind of go, yeah, maybe at times it's better to go these kind of more lane matchup-y drafts.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm asking the question this way is because, one, we're probably going to talk about Fearless at the end of First Stand, because, you know, we will see the top teams be able to do it. And, you know, if you know, it would hurt my heart, but if NA, LTA struggle, it's going to be very easy to point, hey, you played one best of 5 and all these teams played like 30 something, you know, or whatever. And, there's that learning. There's also obviously a lot about the game that changed here with, with Otacon, grubs, feats of strength, all that stuff that the teams had to learn. There was so much learning at the beginning of it, but I think fearless drafting is the thing that will stay. The portions of the game are going to change over time. Like I assume Otacon is here because it's, I think it can. Like I think it could next year. Oh, I really hope it's not staying.
I think
this
it will
year.
next year.
You hope it's not staying this year?
Yeah, like I'm worried that Riot would kowtow to the fan appeal to it, because it's been loud, it's been great, but it feels like those people that care about the quality of the play are in minority, or like are quieter, right? It's like, wow, they played what was it, like Ambessa mid, and it looked like fucking shit because it was a strategic play to take away Ambessa from the top lane champ pool later on in the tournament or in the series. Like that's not what I want to see. I don't want to see ints like that. Like I don't want to see that. Like I would rather see higher quality play and see better execution. And then if they take a risk in the draft, that's better. Like if there was a soft fearless or something like that, I that is what I would like. But I don't think that they're gonna run fearless for the rest of the year.
On that soft fearless, I was speaking with Orcs, your dear colleague and my dear friend, the other week.
Dear colleague,
and I came up, and he agreed that it was good. I will not.
All right.
He's my senior. No, he's my senior, and he's the reason why I'm even here. So I always get to bully him for that.
Yeah. Tip to shaft. Toot it. Whatever the fuck you said.
I feel like a soft version of Fearless that could maybe work specifically for best of fives is if champions only stay banned for 2 games. So you get to game 3, game 1 and game 2 champions still out the pool. But then if you get to game 4, the game 1 champion's back in pool. And I know it might feel a little bit convoluted maybe for like some viewers to follow, but I feel like you then avoid some of the kind of annoying issues of Fearless for like the more purist kind of, like I feel like a lot of us probably are, whereas like we would probably prefer a high level of play, like as opposed to the flexibility of what Fearless can give in terms of champion pool. And I think there's maybe some ways where it also fixes the red side curse, at the very least, like in the East especially. Like the red side curse feels really, really like ridiculous. I feel like there's maybe room to kind of, again, break what seems like, I mean, realistically it's a balance issue. Just nerf Skarner and Kalista and they won't be permanent red side bans, right? Like that there is a solution to it. But yeah, I feel like that as like a nice middle ground of, okay, we know what the champions likely are going to be for the first couple of games, and then teams can stay practiced on this set of champions, and if they want to devolve from what is the expected meta, then maybe we get some like fun picks in 4-5 regardless, right? And I feel like it also takes away a certain level of the harshness of the restriction on like a straight up, like you go to game 5 and everything is fucking out, because I feel like we've already seen the meta of Fearless of all the engaged supports are out. Great, we're first picking Jinx or we're first picking Lulu and we're just going a hyper carry, protect like one carry comp, right? That always seems to be the almost tracked path for most 4-5s in series. So I feel like that could definitely be a thing that I hope they look at or consider if they haven't thought about formats.
So Jamada, my homework for you then is to have this presentation ready for the end of First Stand, because I do want us to dive into a deeper change of Fearless changes, what can make it better, what we liked, what we didn't like, because that is going to be a talking point from here on out. However, for now, I want it to be what should we expect from the learning lessons? And I think Dom did a pretty good job of like, the misdiagnosis of some of these champs or whatever for Azir, Ashe, those types of things. Because when I look at like the most picked champ, can you guys guess what the most picked champion in the top leagues, so the top 5 leagues, where is so far?
Ezreal, got to be up there.
That's
should be number 1.
Close. That's 3. Dom.
What position is it?
Top.
Sante, I guess.
Yeah, it's got to be.
No, because Sante's 4. It's Ambessa.
Ambessa.
So,
Ambessa. Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah. Cassante is the most banned.
Yeah, because
Top
Cassante gets
lane.
banned more than Mbessa, yeah.
Yeah.
But is that
So that's
considering
close.
like the Mbessa mid picks as top picks?
No, it's not. So I can't using the one that I'm using here. I don't think you can justify it that way. Let's
Yeah, I
see,
mean, I
top,
just wouldn't like this. The reason why I like Fearless is I just don't want to see Mbessa, Cassante, Rumble only in the game for a full split. Like, because I mean, that's what would have happened, right? Mbessa was just OP the entire split.
yeah,
Cassante was just OP the entire split. People would just go Mbessa every single time it was up, and then it would just be like Mbessa traded for Cassante or traded into Renekton. Like, it would just be this the entire time. So I feel like Fearless just gets us out of like these really boring metas where the game becomes super scripted.
yeah.
I
Yes,
think that
and
this would
Bessa's
be-
still the most played top laner, including the mid lane plays. It was 8 mid lane plays, and it was still one game more than Cassante for Mbessa.
Okay, so it was one game more than okay. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like the game is like it just would have been a meta of like Mbessa Vi playing versus like Sejuani, Rumble, Yone, and that would just be like the meta for like the entire like split. It would just be people trading off on it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a big enjoyer of Fearless. I just think that it forces teams to play different strategies, and then like it feels like the better team will win. And I think that
5.
also, what'd you say?
Over 5 games.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that like it just makes the game different than like, and also I think that it requires like way more intelligence to exist in the Fearless draft format than, you know, just having like a fucking draft sheet that's like this. Okay, yeah, we've satisfied most of our conditions. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really a fan of the normal drafting anymore. I just think that it's overly simplified, and the game is balanced so poorly that it makes it so like people think that like, oh, there's like a bunch of strategies that are viable. It's like, yeah, they are, but the reason why OP champions are OP is because they actually just win into the things that they shouldn't win into. So it's not like when you go, like, for example, you go like Mbessa Vi, and like theoretically it's like, oh, they went Mbessa Vi, now we can play like Disengage into Mbessa Vi. Like they go Mbessa Vi, you know, they go Mbessa Vi combo with Kaisa. Free, they're full dive. Nice. We can draft things like Zyra. We can draft like these anti-dive champions, Braum, these anti-dive champions, and we're just gonna win. But then what happens is like Mbessa just gets 3 items and then can like ult in, like not really care about how it goes, and then just like exist because she just ends up being too tanky and her cooldowns are too low when she is like Shojin, whatever. So it just feels like it would have been a really bad split. Like this would probably be one of the worst splits ever to not have Fearless, with how locked the meta was, with like Skarner being OP the entire split. Skarner was early banned. Kalista being OP the entire fucking split. Mbessa being OP the entire split. Rumble being OP the entire split. Varus being OP the entire, like it just would have been like such a nightmare to draft in. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like like Fearless is the best thing to protect pro play against the terrible balance in this game.
Clip that. I think that makes a lot of sense. So we'll see if that's what the pathway is forward here for the game, because it should be. You know, and we'll dive into it a lot more. You know, different banning formats, how many bans, Fearless, soft Fearless, Jamada Fearless. We'll call it the Jamada Fearless. See if that name sticks.
Sure.
But all right. There you go. There's our thoughts on Fearless so far. Chimps that have been prioritized and probably misdiagnosed moving into first stand. We still have 2 spots up for grabs. You assume it's G2 over in Europe, but you never know. And then a toss-up over in LPL with BLG kind of leading the way as favorites. Dom will have all that coverage. Jamada, what do you got left for this week?
This weekend, I am traveling from my lovely home in London up to Nottingham to be on the NLC finals, where Ruddy will not be participating. But you're welcome, bro. But we'll be having a pretty fun semi-finals of Bulldog Esports versus Nord. Nord's the like 3rd kind of often forgotten streamer air quotes team. Pretty good team, and then they'll be facing Los Ratones, who I expect will just 3-0 either of these teams in finals, unfortunately. But it will still be a very fun event. So yeah, if you happen to be in the country, tap in, go there. It will be fun. And there's also an LEC viewing party for finals afterwards because it happens directly before LEC finals. So
wow.
that will also be a very, very fun thing if you want to just be around league people or socialize. So yeah.
Look at that scheduling skill set.
I feel like those things are opposite. Be around league people or socialize. Like,
yeah, I know.
you can do one of the two.
Sometimes they do exist, Dom. They're rare. They're like unicorns, but they are there.
Dom, what do you got?
I'm just gonna be doing LPL and then I'll do LEC this week because it's like finals, most hype games, and I have nothing else to do because LTA is done. Yeah, great split. Less than 1 month, perfect. LTA is done. LCK is done. I think LCK was probably the best split in LCK history, honestly. And yeah, I'm a little bit more chill than I was last week. Last week was fucking insane.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Well, glad that you got through it. And we're coming up here on First Stand. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. We'll have another episode recapping all the action from this upcoming week and also previewing First Stand. Until then, see you later.